All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to this press conference called by the promoters of White in the Moonlight. Brief introductions. I'm Deacon Mitchell, attorney for the promoters. To my immediate left is Dr. Patrick Antoine, advisor to the promoters, and his immediate left is one of the promoters, Nimrod Oliver. The other promoter is Mr. Egbert Rumin, who's not here with us today. But Nimrod will speak on behalf of himself and Mr. Romain. The purpose of the press conference is essentially to reiterate and clear the air on some of the what we feel is misinformation that has been put out. And to start, I will ask Mr. Oliver basically to just comment on the fact that the show is in fact going on, that it's going on as it has always gone on the 11th of August, and to talk a bit about the show itself.
Hi, good morning everyone. Like Attorney said, Nimrod Olivier here from White in the Moonlight, and just to let you know, the show is going on Saturday, August 11, as previously stated. As we planning for that, we have things in place. We're in the home stretch now. We're getting the show off for Saturday, August 11th. There has been rumors that the date has been changed. I am telling you, there's no such thing. The show is Saturday, August 11th. We still have the flyers out. We have the advertisement out indicating such, and we intend to have the show with the artists that we indicated, and probably add a few more artists to that. Yes.
I don't know, just before I go over, if you want to just have any questions for Nimrod regarding the show itself.
Oh, so would the show start the normal time as in previous years? Well, after 12, because this year you don't know when the panorama is going to over. So what time will the show start?
Well, that is a very valid point. I mean, over the years we've always given the panorama the courtesy and start the show in around the 1 o'clock time period, and we intend to do the same. So we haven't had no official talk in terms of what time is going to end this year, but we go in based on past precedents, and it's always been around 1 a.m. So that's when we intend to start the show.
You're featuring regional acts. Have they been issued work permits for the show?
No, they haven't been issued work permits from Grenada as yet for the show.
So the back and forth conversation that had been taking place between yourself and the Carnival committee, there has been no agreement between the two on the show?
Since the last press conference, I haven't had any dialogue with the Spice Mass Corporation.
On the matter of the work permit question, that I will speak to other issues regarding this press conference later, but let me again clarify, and I'm happy that you're raising it from the press corps. The answer is unequivocally that artists possessing CARICOM skills certificate, or normally administrative documents from their territories indicating that they're bona fide artists. I say normally because this is something that we have done for Grenadians who have gone to Trinidad who did not have skills certificate. We issued them with administrative documents such as a letter which says that Mr. X is a Calypsonian well known to the Grenadian authorities who is coming to Trinidad and Tobago to perform, even when they didn't have one, because the intention is to allow bona fide artists to travel and work freely anywhere in the region. So the answer is unequivocally, we do not need to have these work permits approved, and if the government wishes to go ahead and maintain the work permit restriction, then it must be that the government intends to automatically provide entrance to these persons to travel and work. And again, to be redundant in saying the danger for us, and I heard a number of my colleagues, including one of our prominent Calypsonians on Watchdog, talking about the fact that Spice Mass Corporation now has teeth, bite. He either said teeth or bite, same thing. The danger is that Grenada stands to lose a lot if other people enforce these kinds of requirements that go against the treaty. We are not going to come out the winners if we continue to give the impression that we are not in conformity with the treaty on these matters. We are a small country. Our carnival hardly provides a sufficient level of income for Calypsonians. If Trinidad and Barbados and St. Vincent and the other places, Guyana, etc., theirs is growing, if they continue to maintain that they're not going to abide by these requirements and other people follow suit, we will not come out the winner. I'm afraid of that, and I continue to issue a word of caution on that matter. Yes, no, absolutely. Legal counsel was just advising that our position, having regard to the several meetings we've had, is that we're fairly confident that the government of Grenada, and again we want to be very clear in saying that we have at all times distinguished, our perspectives on Spice Mass Corporation from our perspectives on the government. You'll recall we said at one time there was a time for the government to descend. We believe the government will do the right thing, and the government will in fact abide by its treaty commitments. I have to believe that, and I think we did say that twice before. In all of the banter, I have to believe that our government is going to stand with the treaty. And let me make it more clear to you. We have even gone further in the OECS arrangement under the chairmanship of our Prime Minister. Under the chairmanship of our Prime Minister, we have gone further in the OECS to extend freedom of movement, yes, to all categories, not just to the named categories in the CARICOM Treaty. So I have to believe, since this is such a fundamental aspect of our foreign policy, indeed of our integration into CARICOM and the OECS, that our government will do the right thing.
Any other questions in relation to the show itself?
So,
Sorry.
yes, sorry. The SMC had warned that they could get the police to stop the show. What words of assurance you could give to fans to get their tickets and the show will definitely go on? Because to me right now, it's a case of who has more power.
The SMC has no power to stop the show. We are absolutely confident that the SMC does not speak for the police force. We have always had an excellent relationship historically with the police. The police cooperates with, and we work with the police in ensuring that the show takes place in a safe and secure environment. And despite the utterings of some members of the SMC, we're absolutely confident that the police will act independently, will make their own judgment, and as always happened in the past, will permit the show to go on.
Have you got a letter confirming that?
You got your confirmation letter from the RGPF already for the show?
No, we do not have a confirmation letter, but there's a process that we normally have gone through in the past. We've similarly done so, and we expect that the same result will happen. But I just want to say this: I don't want to drag the police or any other auxiliary entity into this. This has nothing to do with the police or any of those other entities. It's really, as you can see, it's the utterings of the Spice Mass Corporation, and I'm sure you've not heard the police comment on the matter, and we don't want to get them embroiled in this. Really, it's a matter for the SMC, but we're confident that the SMC cannot direct the police or to carry out its duties, and that the police will act appropriately as they've always done.
Is it normal procedure though?
Hold on, I think.
As it stands now, there will be no further dialogue between the SMC and will there be any further dialogue between the SMC and White and Moonlight? We are
open to speaking to the SMC as we've always been, but essentially since the last press conference, we have not, and the last attempt at mediation, we've had no correspondence from them. We have not corresponded to them, so I don't anticipate that we will get further from them.
Regarding the procedure, is it normal that you advertise an event before having the clearance from the police?
Yeah, it's normal. It's quite. I mean, from a marketing point of view, you would essentially not get anyone to the show if you don't market it. So it's a normal occurrence. It's a normal occurrence. And I mean, obviously, just based on tradition, I mean, this is not a show where there's been any issues with security or anything of the sort.
Absolutely.
And we've relied heavily on police in the past to assist us in that regard.
But the SMC is standing the ground that they want one show on that night and it will be planned. Why should we not just make it clear that we have no intention of making any changes to their plans? So, what from there? What if, I mean, you said based on the treaty that we have with free movement of Caribbean nationals and so on, what happens if they do not get that permit and government, the SMC government decides to block the show? What does White and Moonlight do for that?
Well, I would answer by saying, one, we have no indication that the government will do anything to block the show, and based on that, obviously, we can't, in a sense, speculate to that. Second, the government is not the Spice Mass Corporation. Yep. And I'm quite confident that the Spice Mass Corporation is free to make utterances as it has done. As to whether or not its utterances are grounded in law is another matter. And I've said so at the previous press conference, and I will say it again. If the Spice Mass Corporation had the law on its side, and if it was a responsible one, given that this issue arose as early as February of this year, one would have thought that they would have done the appropriate thing to ensure that the law was on their side and that they had the backing of a court order. And we are law-abiding citizens. If a court served an order saying that, as the court, we are ordering you to stop preparations for the show, or to stop the show, then we would have complied with that order. But we are clear in our minds that the reason the Spice Mass Corporation has not gone to seek that court order is because it knows that the statute it is relying on does not authorize it to do the things that it is claiming it is authorized to. And we've said that time and time again, and you would note that the Spice Mass Corporation, in our view, has not answered that question. They have not answered that question. And not only that, you must ask yourself this question: why is it only White in the Moonlight that they sought to stop? Why is it every other show is going on as usual? It is only White in the Moonlight that they've sought to stop. And I think that is the question you have to ask the Spice Mass Corporation about.
It is also important to just to pick up on one small aspect of your question, which as usual is excellent. When you mentioned PAN, that they said there would only be one show, and that is PAN. It should be clear to every single one of you that this is not about PAN. This is about two soca shows, one of which has some PAN men playing, but if you look at the posters, if you listen to the advertisements, this is two soca shows that seem to be going head to head. This is not about one soca show and then a very nice, PAN event that's taking place and you're disenfranchising the PAN men. This is about a naked piece of action by the Spice Mass Corporation to protect one soca show vis-a-vis the other. That is what this is about. And we have now a compendium of messages. I want to repeat, we have in our possession a compendium, not one or two, a compendium of emails, which makes clear our point. Legal counsel will speak to this and I will follow up on some of those issues. Our issue is not with the government of Grenada. Our issue is with a creature called Spice Mass Corporation that appears to be a law unto itself, even where it violates our constitutional rights and violates the treaty. And we will speak to those matters so that the Grenadians can judge for themselves. Legal counsel will get into some of those issues. We have a compendium of emails and messages which will make it clear to the press and to every single Grenadian the sort of injustice this gentleman has been subjected to just to have a show. And this is why I've said to my colleagues, this is about more than just an event. This speaks to some fundamental principles. We have a compendium of emails. A compendium of emails. Some of which we'll refer to today and the rest we will keep for the right audience. Legal counsel will speak to those.
Let me just ask a question before you go. What does this mean for Grenada? Should, in case one set of artists from the region is allowed permission to come in, and perform, and the next set is not allowed to come?
Well, I think the fact that you've asked the question, in the question itself lies the answer.
You know, I came in last night. The last phone call I got as I was sitting on the plane, it was from Ajamo. And we all know who Ajamo is. And Ajamo he just, in his words, he couldn't understand what it is that Spice Mass Corporation is trying to do. And if they really understand the effects of what they're trying to do on the international market. And he just wanted to call me to let me know that he's not going to come in this year because in his words, he didn't really want to deal with all of what's going on here. But he just called me to let me know as I was traveling, brother, I support you. And like I said, we all know who Ajamo is and what Ajamo means to us for culture in Grenada. Think about that.
As it relates to financial contributions to the SMC or towards SPAN, are you still willing, or would you be willing to make contributions whether you're called upon or not? Because you say the show will go on.
It's you know, it was on the table and to date it's still under consideration.
Well, we have to point out when we offered it, it was flatly rejected by the chairman, which again calls into question whether or not it was about support for PAT. It was flatly rejected. We made an initial offer, we upped the offer, we doubled the offer, and it was flatly rejected by the chairman. He said they did not want any money from White in the Moonlight. All right. As Dr. Antoine indicated, we engaged in a process with the Spice Mass Corporation initially of hoping to try and resolve this matter in an amicable manner. And we were under the impression that we were engaging in a genuine effort at trying to reach agreement. We have correspondence within our possession which suggests that all along we were being led effectively to take part in a farce, because it seems that from day one the Spice Mass Corporation had no intention of resolving this matter in an amicable manner, and they had no intention of allowing White in the Moonlight to take place. And I've circulated to you copies of some of those emails. And I start with, in a sense, the last one, an email from the deputy chairperson of the board to fellow board members. And I'm just going to, you have it, so I'm going to read parts of it so that you understand that if this was really about White in the Moonlight, if this was genuinely about Carnival and the culture and making more events available for people, then we perhaps would have resolved this a long time ago. But it's quite clear that, for want of a better word, there are perhaps other agendas at stake. And let me just read some of the correspondence. As I said, this is from the deputy chairperson of the board to fellow board members, dated the 3rd of July 2012, almost a month today. Although I shouldn't be, I'm actually flabbergasted at the lengths at which these guys are prepared to take political interference. They have now given it a new meaning. Are they really going to get so vulgar as to walk out of the cabinet room into the arena, meeting with our stakeholders to plead White in the Moonlight's case, talk about self-destructing? Who compromised the 3-member team? Pray tell. And why would they have to meet with White in the Moonlight, or any of us for that matter? According to Collins' understanding, which I know is correct, they have already accepted all the reasons we advanced as to why there should only be one show. So how on earth are they going to convince us that both should happen? And as to White in the Moonlight, they are already resolute that they are going on Saturday night. So why does Cabinet have to talk to them? To convince them of what? Or is it to further reassure them so that their contempt of us can be further deepened? This thing is a real charade. Leave them alone while they drive their final nails in their coffin. For they have already committed political suicide.
Absolutely.
They're just nailing up their own coffin now. Let us remain in the right, not making a false step. Let's cover our bases and get our letters out. Not much more I can say at this time. I perhaps need to sleep on this one before I say more. Incredible. Now, this is the response of the deputy chairperson in reaction to the government of Grenada seeking to find out and meet with various stakeholders concerning the issues surrounding White in the Moonlight and the hosting of the 2 shows. This is the contempt that the Spice Mass Corporation has for the highest decision-making executive body in the land. Nothing here to deal with the merits or demerits of why one show should have more, one show shouldn't have more, but all about politics. This is correspondence from the chairman of the board to his fellow directors. Team, I am happy to say I survived the interrogation, referring to having to meet with the cabinet, with the cabinet of Grenada. I presented the legal, credibility, economic, stakeholder interest, political and overall communication partnership aspects as to why we need to stand firm with our decision, which was correct to begin. It is apparent, however, that despite accepting all of our claims, a few members of cabinet, led by the Prime Minister, remain adamant that the fete should be allowed on Carnival Saturday. And let me read over. It is apparent, however, that despite accepting all of our claims, a few members of cabinet, led by the Prime Minister, remain adamant that the fete should be allowed on Carnival Saturday. I communicated that we have been mediating in good faith, and our communication and resulting mandate from our stakeholders is clear. Stand our ground, one show on Carnival. We can do no. Now, if the Spice Mass Corporation position was that only one show will take place, how could in the same breath Mr. Dow say that I am mediating in good faith? In other words, he's making it clear I am not compromising. Yet still we are made to engage in a lengthy process of consultations, multiple mediations, including on a Sunday, when I upped and doubled the monetary offer that was on the table in favor of the PAN Association, only to be told that they were not accepting any money from us. So it's a clear indication that all along, as the Deputy Chairwoman said, that this was a charade, and that we genuinely and honestly thought we were seeking to have an amicable resolution to the matter, when all along the Spice Mass Corporation had no intention of doing so. Now let me read this paragraph. As a result, a 3-member team of cabinet ministers will schedule meetings with the board, our stakeholders, PAN, Tropics and Lime, and then with White in the Moonlight to convince all parties that it is best to come to a resolution that has all events occurring on Carnival Saturday. While not confirmed, and hence purely for our compensation, the pitch, consumption, the pitch may be, White in the Moonlight pays SMC $30,000, White in the Moonlight gives $20,000 to the development of PAN, and government gives an additional $20,000 to us to make us whole. So, in effect, it was all a setup. Right? So that even when we thought we were negotiating in good faith, and we offered the compensation, in the end, and I'm using compensation here, it was still rejected. So the suggestion by the Spice Mass Corporation that they're mediating in good faith, I think even their own words puts to rest any such suggestion. And for reasons best known to the Spice Mass Corporation, it seems that from day one, they never had any intention of allowing White in the Moonlight to take place. 2, they were contemptuous of even having to meet with the cabinet of Grenada to explain or discuss the situations. And the email and the language is quite clear on that. And so it leaves us with grave doubts as to whether or not the Spice Mass Corporation was genuinely seeking to promote and protect the interests of PAN men as they claim. You have the emails, and I'm sure you will put those questions to the Spice Mass Corporation if and when you get the opportunity to do so. Before I take any questions, Dr. Antoine obviously would say a few.
Well, I think what we've heard today is shocking. I don't think we've had any revelation in recent time which has been as scandalous as the revelation that we've had today. Here we have it that the Spice Mass Corporation, by virtue of the correspondence you have before you, not by us, but by virtue of the correspondence before you, the Spice Mass Corporation sets up a scenario where, according to the communication, the chairman is saying that for their consumption, not that they intend to genuinely do it at all, but for their consumption, they would hold out a particular solution set to the White in the Moonlight organization. And he tells us exactly what it is, and in fact that is the elements that we discuss with ministers. throughout this email, he makes it clear that this is really nothing more than smoke and mirrors, cloak and daggers. Because in truth and in fact, they had accepted, is what he said here, their position of only having one show, and therefore, for their own consumption, this is what it will look like, but it's really not so, because we're not really intending to have any settlement at all. That's what Deacon's been saying. These are not our words, these are their words, which is why in the subsequent email we have the following words, which basically makes it clear what I just said. It says here that according to Collins' understanding, which I know is correct, I'm quoting, they have already accepted all the reasons we advance as to why there should only be one show. So how on earth are they going to convince us that both should happen? All a smoke. Then she goes on to say, not my words. This thing is a real charade. The word charade. In the beginning of the email, it makes it clear. Although I shouldn't be, I'm actually flabbergasted at the lengths to which these guys, I refer to these guys when I speak with you and when I speak to others, as our ministers or honorable ministers of government, these guys are prepared to take political interference. It's not me saying. This revelation to you this morning is shameful and scandalous. This is an organization created by the government of Grenada to advance Carnival within a context of a society that has come from emancipation to universal adult suffrage, to freedom of assembly. And you have the vice chairman of the said organization created by the same government saying that the same government, and I'm going to quote for you, the same government, she says, leave them alone while they drive the final nails in their coffin, for they have already committed political suicide. They're just nailing up their own coffin now, and we have more. Tell my colleagues, Ruggles Ferguson, that there's a separate one on him as well. These people have absolutely no regard for any of us. And that is what we've been fighting from day one. It is not by chance that now it's come to a point where others in their own organization find it offensive that this matter should find itself on the internet globally, so that people globally can see what it is organizations created by Grenada, by a cabinet, to advance our interests as a people, how they treat the same cabinet. This is premeditated disrespect of our cabinet. I will not be associated with it. I do not believe any of us should be associated with it. This was not necessary to stop a show. We have gone to lengths that we have not hitherto seen to stop a show. Let me say what I said at the beginning. We have a number of other emails. We have a compendium of emails.
Can we see?
We have only given you 2. From the beginning, this is what we were warning about. I am myself disappointed at my dear colleague, the chairman. I did not believe he would find himself in such a compromising position. I have not spoken about the chairman before, for indeed, I have held him hitherto now in high esteem. But according to the deputy chairman, the chairman himself is caught in what is called a cabal. It is a cabal. The chairman is caught in a cabal with his board to disenfranchise the rights of freedom of assembly to hold a carnival show by a Grenadian citizen, by a Grenadian organization, and by the Grenadian public. It's a cabal. And we have other emails. Other emails. But we need not go anywhere beyond this. So today we want to call on the Prime Minister. This email has given us some hope that the Prime Minister of Grenada was not party to what may have unfolded. This email tells us, it tells us here, It is apparent, however, that despite accepting all of our claims, a few members of cabinet led by the PM remain adamant that the fete should be allowed on Carnival Saturday. I say to the Prime Minister of Grenada, if this was indeed your position, sir, you are right. And sir, because your position is founded on a proper tenor, that of the treaty, sir, having regard to what we've read to you today, having regard to the emails in our possession, having regard to the way in which this thing has unfolded, having regard to the patent, premeditated disrespect of your cabinet, sir. Sir, you have absolutely no option, it would seem to me, to go about in the way that you obviously seem to have held out at the beginning and to allow the show. For, sir, not to do so would cause this matter to take on a life of its own. It would no longer be about the show, sir. It would be about those fundamental rights that are enshrined, sir, in these emails that are in our possession. Sir, we have never sought to disrespect you or your cabinet. We have approached this matter at all times with the respect and the decency, with the fidelity that it deserves. But sir, it is not so. It is not so by evidence of these emails by the board that you have put in place. We rest on this matter. This matter will take legs, for you cannot hope to right this kind of subversive, disrespectful, dangerous communication and hope that somehow in a modern internet age it will remain covert, hidden somewhere, so that people who you seek to disenfranchise, people whose rights you seek to destroy, must sit silently by while these kinds of communications take place amongst yourself in a small circle, hoping that it will never get out. Today we have the truth. The truth is what it is. These people, my colleagues in the Spice Mask Corporation, have disappointed me. And I hope that we can get by this. We can sit down and have a discussion around this. And on that basis, we are prepared perhaps to withhold any further information which we believe is not in the best interest of the corporation or in the best interest of our country. For what is here by itself, can you imagine that you are a government and you've appointed a board, and that board has a dispute with a private party, and rather than engaging the private party, the board, when it feels it's not getting its way, writes about the ministers who appointed them, leave them alone, while they drive the nails, the final nails, not just the nails, the final nails in their coffin, for they have already committed political suicide. This is a board that you as a government put in place, and it goes on. They're just nailing up their own coffin now. How dare you? Spice Mask Corporation, how dare you?
I have a question. I must ask it of you because I'm afraid my listeners may ask it of me. How do you verify that this is authentic and it came from the source you're citing?
I think if you read from the top, you see it tells you who the sender of the email is. It tells you who the recipients of the email is.
Don't tell how it's been verified.
As no doubt a good journalist, you will be able to confirm who the email addresses of each and every respective person here is. Right? And it is not just this particular email. When you go down,
it's a string.
It's a string.
We have a string.
You'd see,
it's an email
from
string.
The chairman, you'd see his email signature at the bottom. You'd see it's associated with a particular institution, and it goes on. So it is not, these things are verifiable. You can ascertain who the email addresses are, and you can put it to the Spice Mask Corporation. Spice Mask Corporation.
Look. We don't pick legal counsel because it's a flight of fancy. When my legal counsel attributes after proper checks, it is not now that we've had this email. We've had this email for a month. and we have ascertained the authenticity of this email. We've had it for a month. The authenticity of this email. And let me say to you, even if it were erased now, it leaves an electronic footprint. Even if it is erased now, for people have done that recently, you know, the world has changed. You go and you scrub the hard drive. It leaves an electronic footprint. My colleague Nazim is smiling. Even if it were erased now, it leaves an electronic footprint. This email is in the possession of a number of persons, all of them prominent. And it will leave and has left an electronic footprint.
Thank you very much.
No more questions? This was easy.
All we want you to do, as the press corps, we can't tell you what to write. But there comes a point when this kind of behavior has to give rise to a consensus amongst all of us to push back. Whatever perspective you come from, we have to push back against this kind of flagrant disrespect of our constitution, our cabinet, our government, our ministers, our processes. You have to push back against that. I rest.
Alright, in summary, like I said at the beginning, we're going ahead and do the show. We're going ahead and do the show. Like legal counsel said, we are within our rights. You know, myself and Egbert and Daigo. Like Pat, like Dr. Antoine said, you know, on the CARICOM aspect of it, we are within our rights. So we're going ahead and do our show on Saturday, August 11th. And as both legal counsel and my advisor pointed out, we sort of know, we know where the PM starts on this, and you know, we now know where the PM stands on this for the very first time, and we hope that you know, him being the individual that you have in using sound judgment and leading our country, you know, he sticks with, you know, his guns and do the right thing.
Not guns. His decision. Not guns. Not guns.
Stick to his decision and do the right thing for the people of Grenada. All right. This is not about Nimrod Olivier. It's not about Egbert Romain. It's not about Dr. Antoine. It's not about Attorney Deacon Mitchell. It's about our rights as Grenadian citizens and the people of Grenada. You know, to date I haven't heard anything that I'm breaking any laws, so if I am, I would trust that the police would contact me and let me know. But we're within our rights and we're going ahead on Saturday, August 11th and do the show.
We just ask one final question.
Sure.
This is Grenada. Anything is possible. What is plan B, just in case the SMC tries to stop that show in Moonlight and you have, what should I say, thousands of fans inside that place?
Let me say the following to you. We have no plan B when it comes to asserting that we have a right to assemble, that we have no intention of creating a nuisance. We've never done it in previous years. That just as people can assemble in Queen's Park for a soca show, they can assemble in the rural community for a soca show. Just as thousands of people can be assembled in Queen's Park, and the police may have a right to stop it, we see absolutely no difference with us assembling in St. Andrews for them to have a right to stop. We don't have a plan B. Spice Mass Corporation probably doesn't have a plan B for its show on Saturday night. We don't have a plan B. We believe that, particularly having regard to what we've just read you, we do not need a plan B. Our rights have been infringed. Our rights have been infringed. And every single Grenadian who believes in these things, who have lived through periods in our history where we've had these things have the very dangerous creeping effect of catastrophe in the end, or to stand up and defend these rights. We have absolutely no plan B. We intend to exercise our rights and to have a very enjoyable show in St. Andrews, just as they're having a show in Queen's Park, in St. George's.
How is the sale of tickets currently, and is it being affected based on previous years by the situation?
Yes, obviously, because Spice Mass Corporation had seeked to create some doubts and uncertainty as to whether or not the show was going to happen. Like I said, I came in last night. I got home like 1 o'clock this morning, and I'm here now to tell you that we going ahead with the show. And I trust with your astute reporting, we would clear up a lot of the doubts that's still lingering out there.
So sales are slow?
Of course it's slow.
But it's no longer just about the sales, eh? It's about your right to assemble. It's about your right to assemble. It's about your right to push back against those emails you have in your hand and the others that we have not given you. It is your right to push back.
But just to summarize, the marketing of the show will certainly take up steam. You'll be seeing a lot more of the ads. You'll be hearing a lot more from the promoters. You'll be seeing the flyers, etc. And as in the past, we will encourage all of the supporters of White in the Moonlight to come out and to stand with us and to support your right to party in a free, clean, safe enjoyment. Those who like me, who still would go pan and then go White in the Moonlight, we still encourage you to do so.
Absolutely.
Make this clear, we are not telling anyone not to attend the Panorama show at the stadium. I attended the Panorama show at the stadium last year and went to White in the Moonlight, and for those who are inclined to do so, we encourage you to do so.
God's Spare Life will be there. We'll all be there if they allow us. If they give us
those who are pure White in the Moonlight fans, we encourage you to keep on coming up. All right.